Welcome to Offbeat, the light side of law enforcement, part of the Treehouse Podcast Network. I'm your host, Steve Rutherford. Co-host for today's show, Josh Jackson.
Howdy.
Welcome back, Josh.
Thank you.
And we're joined with, two guests in studio. Joining us in studio, we've got retired Sergeant from the Dallas Police Department, Sergeant Mike Mata.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And on the other side of Mike, joining us at the end of the table, we've got my wife, Karen.
Hello.
Welcome, Karen. Thank you for being here today.
Of course.
And every day.
It's really amazing that she hangs around.
It's a miracle, right?
Yeah, I can't even go there.
It's best just to own it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now, Josh, like I said, Josh, good to have you back.
Appreciate it.
It's been a while since we've had you on the show.
Yeah. I've gone through the therapy. I was able to come back finally after being on here with you.
Okay.
So
the doc said, "Hey."
No, I just stopped going to the doctor.
Okay. Now, but you do real estate.
I do.
You've been busy out there. You're selling houses.
I am. The market's picked up. Yeah, absolutely. I do that, and then I've got 4 new paddle sites going in with the paddle business.
Nice.
So yeah. Open 2 in Illinois, or have a second one in Illinois, and then I have 11 in Texas.
So you're nationwide.
I'm nationwide. Paddleeasy.com. So that's a free plug, right, Steve?
Yeah.
Let's see you edit that out.
I guess I got to give you that one, Josh. So, oh no, man, that's good to
appreciate it.
Good to hear business is going well.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Keeping me out of law enforcement.
Outstanding. Well, you posted something on social media this week on Facebook with a picture of you in the old motor rodeos.
I did.
You used to ride a 2-wheel police car thingy, a motor.
Yeah, we call them motorcycles.
And you posted on there the pictures of that, said, "Please buy a house or I'll have to go back to this."
Yeah. Well, there's some days I get the itch to go back, but not enough. God bless y'all for doing it, because it was a good career.
Oh yeah.
It was a lot of fun. Glad I did it, but also glad to be retired.
Oh yeah, just the opportunity to serve. That's what it's all about. I enjoyed serving, and actually I've come across there's another group on Facebook called Retired Officers Page.
Okay.
And it caught my attention because they had posted something, and I commented on it about officers talking about when they separate from their department, when they leave. Some agencies, these guys are saying, "Hey, they took my badge and they just throw it in a box over here," and they just didn't feel appreciated, kind of thing. And I was just reading through the comments, and I commented on it, but it's different all over the place.
Absolutely.
And you bring up your retirement, Josh. I attended your retirement ceremony. I was still working.
Yeah.
And stand at the back of the room.
I remember I did this to you.
You did. Gave me the little finger wave and the thumb on your nose thing.
Yeah.
And I was envious of you that day. And I didn't know if you paid those people to be there or not, because a lot of people showed up.
I did, yeah.
So that's not the Josh that I know.
Yeah, no, they just remember the good stuff. No, I'm to credit Capel. They've done a great job of keeping me involved. Made me an honorary association member, and it's been great. Yeah, so
good deal.
Yeah.
And now, Mike, moving on to you, you're retired as well.
I am retired. I'm still reserve.
Okay.
So I do a few things during the year just to help out, but yeah, for the most part, I'm retired.
Now I've got to ask this, because everyone I've come across that's retired from Dallas still reserves for Dallas. Is pretty much everybody still reserve?
I'd say it's probably 50-50 who do, and mine was mostly because of the job I do now. They preferred that we kept our reserve status, and also, I still wanted to be somewhat engaged with the association, the Dallas Police Association, and the department itself, because I still kind of dabble in the politics side of it. But, I just didn't want to completely walk away, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It's kind of like weaning off something.
Mm-hmm.
And, you brought up a point earlier that I just want a quick touch on. I used to, as president of the Police Association, I would give out the retirement badges to all the officers that were retiring. And, I could kind of tell the officer that was going to have a hard time or the officer that wasn't going to have a hard time. And most of that was, sometimes at the retirement parties or their get-togethers, or just if I knew him. Because if you had that officer that had no life outside of the department, I mean, the department was every bit of their whole identity, they usually had a very hard time.
Oh, absolutely.
And so, I'm sure we'll get into this, but and that's why I constantly tell officers, or when I was in the association and just talking, you got to have friends outside the police world.
Oh, yes.
First of all, it brings you a little bit of reality.
Yep.
But secondly, it allows you to grow once you step away from being law enforcement, because there's more to life than the badge and the gun and the vest. And if they don't figure that out before they retire, they're going to have a very hard retirement.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Very,
True.
very important. And I had a supervisor tell me that long ago. Said you need to maintain friendships outside of law enforcement as well, and get involved in stuff other than police work. Have a hobby. Have something that you can do. Makes it so much easier. And I've been to retirement parties recently, and you could tell it was tough on a guy. I had a coworker announce just this week, a former coworker, that he's retiring, and so I texted him back and forth with him. How do you feel? He said he felt like a huge burden had been lifted. I said, yeah, but there's still an adjustment period there.
Yeah. Big time.
There definitely is. You had to make yourself normal again.
It's a weird factor. My wife jokes that I still wear a uniform because, for
Whoa, Josh. Whoa.
This is clean.
Okay,
100% PG.
Okay.
But for our whole career, we were told this is what you wear.
Right.
And so now my realtor uniform is jeans and a polo.
Yeah.
That's what I wear.
That's nice. It's like
Yeah.
a CID uniform now.
Yeah, absolutely.
I get that too. The wife and I'll be in front of the TV, watching TV, and we'll see something, whether it's, with DPD or City Hall or politics or pension or whatever. And she can tell that I'm kind of getting riled up a little bit. And she'll just look at me and say, it's not your problem anymore.
Yep.
It's not your problem anymore.
Let it go.
I do that with Steve in the car.
Yeah.
He tells me what all the suspects in every car that passes by. I'm like, it's just a car. It's just a car. Stop.
I do that.
Where's the
There's a
mute button
traffic
for her
violation.
mic?
There's a traffic violation. There's a traffic violation. And then it turns out it's me. So, yeah.
Well, and Mike, you mentioned you're the president of the Dallas Police Association for many years.
Yeah.
And I always go back to the times that I would turn on the evening news, and you would have someone from like Fox or one of the other stations on there, and they would always say, someone flipped a booger on somebody's windshield. Let's go live now to Dallas Police Association and talk to President Mike Mata. And what happened? Well, some guy threw a booger on somebody's windshield. I mean, it's like they were always down there seeking an interview with you or talking to you.
Yeah.
And
It's weird how that played out. I mean, I think what really happened, how it really started there is 7/7 is how it really started. And the president at the time, Ron Pinkston, he wasn't real comfortable in front of the camera. He didn't like, doing it. And at that time, I was a VP. I was vice president of the association, and had no intent or no inclination of being the president, to be honest with you. And he asked if I could help with some of these interviews because they were just every day. And I said, yeah, I mean, I'll do my part, and I didn't think I'd be any good at it. So I started to do those interviews, and to be honest with you, during those weeks and months, it was all just a blur. I mean, I don't even remember most of those days because it was, it was a burial after burial after burial, and, candlelight vigil after candlelight vigil. And I ended up doing okay at that. And so Ron, from that point forward, said, Mike, I'm not good at it. I'm not comfortable with doing it. Why don't you just take that over from this point forward? So I kind of did. And then, I became the president, and then we had pension issues, and that kind of put me out there. And then, we had hiring issues, and then we had Chief Hall issues. I swear it gets better at some point.
Yeah.
And then, and then unfortunately we had the Botham Jean issue, which really put me out there, and the whole, turning off the camera, not turning off the camera crap that I had to explain. And whether I liked it or not, I was going to be on TV. And when it came to the Botham Jean thing, it was more, I had to defend the department. I needed to defend the men and women of the association and of the men and women of the DPA and of the police department that, we did the right thing. We did the right thing that we knew at the time.
Yeah.
You can hindsight it 6 months later, great. But at that moment, we followed policy. We followed, protocol. And it may not sound right to the average Joe. And that was my point. I needed to get that message out there to explain to the community and to the citizens of exactly what really happens. It's not like TV.
Yep.
No, it's not even.
It's not like Hollywood.
Yeah.
I don't understand. it might be in Capel, but
A little bit. One side of town. That's the only time.
so yeah, I can imagine a lot less stress going into retirement then.
I tell you, it's a different kind of stress, I guess, but it's nowhere near. I mean, I lost 50 pounds. I actually realized I could sleep more than 4 hours, 5 hours straight. I can actually sleep 8 hours, sometimes 10 on a holiday. and again, like I said earlier, a lot of things just weren't my problem anymore. And I had to learn how to be a better husband. I had to learn how to be a better father. Because, I think everyone here will agree, it's very difficult to be the parent that you want to be the husband that you want to be in a career that your phone rings constantly.
Yeah.
You never know when you're actually going to get off and go home, or if you're, gonna go home.
Yeah.
And then that's a hard thing because, sometimes your wife kind of understood what they signed up for, but they never really do.
No.
Or your significant other. But your kids definitely,
No.
they didn't sign up for that. And they don't understand, especially when they're small. They don't understand. And so that's a lot for the officer to carry because they feel like a failure.
Yeah, you feel like, okay, well, this was my chosen profession. And sometimes it's, we talk about this. It's a calling. You don't stumble across this profession.
No.
Your heart has to be in it in order to do it. And there were times towards the end of my career, I felt guilty. I'm like, I could have chosen anything else that would have been more conducive to a better family life.
Yeah.
But I chose to do this. I chose to serve. And
And I'll tell you this. One day I was in City Hall, and this is when Chief Kunkel was our chief. And we were getting on the elevator, and he said, "Hey, Mike, how you doing?" I said, "Good." And we started talking about, hiring. We were having a problem hiring officers like everybody does now. And he said, "Mike, anybody can be an officer."
no,
And I said, "Hang on a second." And it really, I'm not gonna lie, it pissed me off that he said that. And I said, "Chief, I like you. We get along." I said, "But I got to argue with you. No, not everybody can be an officer. If that's the case, then why do we have an academy? Yeah. If you could just be an officer, just let them come in, give them a gun and badge, and they're all going to do the right thing." I said, "No, not everybody. It takes a special person willing to sacrifice themselves and their families for their profession, for their calling. And, I'm going to fight you tooth and nail if you get on TV and say anybody can do this job, because that's not
absolutely
the truth.
not true.
Well, the scary thing to me is that so many departments, because they are facing hiring issues, are hiring people and they just lower the standards to meet and then you realize not everybody can be an officer because this job is not for everybody.
Scary and dangerous.
It absolutely is, because you've got to be willing to go hands on and not just draw a weapon. Because this job is not. It's not like TV. There's the only way I can think to say it's not like TV.
Well, and ultimately, I think that, and a little bit of this comes in when I taught at the academy. I was a defensive tactics instructor at the academy, and one of the things I would always ask my classes in the very beginning, first week or two, I would just, time to be honest with yourself. How many people in this room have actually been in a fist fight, a true drag out fist fight, not a push, not wrestling, where you actually got smoked in the face to where you saw the stars? Yeah. And you would maybe get, I have a class of 50 to 55. You'd get 15 people to raise their hands. So that really means about 7 of those 15, maybe 8 of those 15 that raise their hands. And that's why I started boxing at the academy. I asked our commander at the time, I said, "Look, we're not here to beat people's asses and to just get off on beating up recruits, but they got to build confidence.
Yes.
That they can live through those stars. And if they've never seen the stars, The first time they do doesn't need to be when they're in a uniform,
Yeah.
because they gotta guard that gun. They have to have confidence that they can make it that minute, 30 seconds it takes for to hear the call of the angels, the sirens,
Yep.
to see the lights coming to save you. And if they don't have that feeling, it's going to cost them, and eventually it'll cost the department in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wait, is this why y'all always ruled at guns and hoses?
Yeah, Dallas is always well represented out there.
Yeah. I didn't know they had a boxing ring.
Well, doesn't Grand Prairie as well?
You
I think
got
Grand
me.
Prairie Police Department also has a
Or is it
program.
Garland?
Oh, Garland has too.
Boy,
Garland, they just drop you off at parts of the city, right? So,
We do boxing
Yeah.
today. Drop you off over here.
I always heard, I don't know if it's urban legend, but I heard DPS had like a pit and they put you in the
Yep.
pit.
so San Antonio followed the DPS model,
Okay.
and it was pit, and you got in there and you had you couldn't hit in the groin, you couldn't hit in the throat, but other than that, it was you would do a 2 minutes, a minute, and 30 seconds, and then they would add people in there as you're in the pit. They just
Wow.
keep your weapon.
Just
And
so
so-
you till the point when
You're completely fatigued.
yeah.
And if you can make it. And again, I think sometimes academies get away from, you're not training for the 90% of the time.
Yeah.
You're training for the 10% of the time. The 90% of the time is mostly academic. All right. I think all of us have been in that situation where we're arresting somebody. We're not exactly sure which law they broke exactly, but we know that's illegal.
Yeah.
I know that's illegal.
Yeah.
I just got to figure out what exactly it is.
Yeah.
So you have time to make those decisions. That 10% of the time in your career is when you don't have time. You have to react. You have to be confident in what you're doing. I think we all would agree, when you have to go hands-on, quick, fast, and deliberate.
Absolutely.
The faster you can get it under control, the better it's going to be for everybody. It's normally better for the officer because we're usually shorter, smaller, fatter, less,
Wow.
less,
Oh, sorry.
Josh, quit looking at me.
less dexterity than the 20-year-old or 18-year-old we're fighting.
Yeah.
And so, those are just things that you have to learn. But, back to the original, it's not everybody. Everybody can't do
Yes.
that.
No,
Absolutely.
absolutely not.
And in academies, the cities need to be able to fire people.
Yeah.
And that's been problematic. Now, nobody wants to fire anybody.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Softer, gentler.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to fire folks.
Yeah.
That's true. Keep everybody else safe and to keep them safe. Now, Mike, you mentioned you had some stories during your training days of training folks.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Wait, why don't you tell us? Why don't you tell us one of these
Okay. Well, we'll go with actually training first. So I was
versus not really training?
well, not academy training, but actually training recruits.
Okay.
So I was probably on about 4.5 years, 5 years when I finally, took the senior corporal exam and made it and started training. And, when you're a low man on the totem pole, you always get the crap car, right? You get the shit car, right? And you just accept it because, at that time,
It's a rite of passage.
seniority was everything.
Absolutely.
Departments have kind of got away from seniority, which just blows my mind. But and everybody had to earn the right to do anything really, but it was to earn a right to get a nice car. So I finally get a new car. And so I have this recruit, and let's just say this recruit was a little bit difficult. It was, they wanted to do everything their way. And I would explain to this recruit, look, after you finish training with me and then you train with the other 3, trainers, when you're on your own, you could do it however you want to do it. You take a little bit of everybody or take nothing from anybody. But while you're training with me, my name goes first on that report. So I'm the one who has to get on the stand first. And so we're going to write it. We're going to do it like I want to do it. Yeah. And then when you come back to me on 4th phase, you're a one in the Dallas system. You write one man and I'm an observer for most of that. And I said, then you could do it your way. I said, but right now we're doing it our way. So there was some contention there while we were training. And I finally get my new car, man, and I am so excited. I got a brand new car.
This isn't going to end well. I just a prediction.
Yeah, it's a great setup.
And we go to get gas, and the doors open. And I don't know how it was in your cities, but we had these sensors on the cars. When we were at the gas tank, you had to kind of hit a sweet spot, and it would turn on the pump, right?
Okay.
Automatically, right? But of course, city equipment, like all cities, it doesn't work exactly right. And so you'd have to go forward and backward sometimes to get it to kick on. So this recruit of mine had the door open and it wasn't kicking on. And I said, well, you got to kind of move the car a little bit. And so the recruit gets back in the car and they start moving the car forward and back. And before I can say anything, I look left and the driver's side door was wide open and they had those poles to keep cars from running into the pumps. And the recruit pulled the car back and just my brand new car door just folds to where it is flat against the car. The first day in this brand new car. And I was like, I literally got up, grabbed my bag and shit, and just went straight back in the station. I said, I'm going home today. This is not going to be, you got to know when that day's not going to be a good day. Yeah. That was not going to be a good day. And we're just going to restart this on tomorrow.
Dude, and that recruit went on to be a chief?
No.
You're listening to Offbeat, the light side of law enforcement. Visit us online at offbeatcopshow.com.
Let's welcome Daniel Cook from Cook DFW Roofing and Restoration into the studio. Their number is 833-COOK-DFW. The website, cookdfw.com. What is going on, Daniel?
Man, we're getting ready to have a good busy day and getting out here and meeting some clients, man. It feels great.
Now, we have had a few storm events already this year. Is it a good idea now to have a professional come out and inspect your roof?
Well, Steve, I mean, rule of thumb is once a year, you should have your home inspected every year, no matter what kind of storms we had. But now that we've had a couple of large wind events, we've had a couple of hail events now, now is the perfect opportunity. Let's get that home checked out. Let's see if you have any damage that you need to be aware about. We don't want you to be, sitting in August or September later on, and then all of a sudden spring a leak or find out that you have damages that occurred, this spring. So it's a perfect opportunity to give us a call. Let us come out, make an assessment on your roof, on your home. You don't know if you have damage from the ground. I know a lot of people think they're going to look up, or if they don't have a leak, then they don't have to worry about anything. That's not the way it works. You have damage more than likely if you've gone through some of these spring events, and it's a perfect opportunity to see if we can just repair them with small, items instead of worrying about large things later down the road. So yeah, give us a call. Our inspections are complimentary. We come out, we show you, we document, we picture. We want to give you the peace of mind that you know exactly what's going on top of your home.
Well, and you guys are kind of a different breed when it comes to that. You offer free roof inspections, and you know what? I would much rather have someone else climbing across the roof of my house than myself. It might have been fun as a kid, but as an adult, no, thank you.
Yeah. Some of the roofs we get up on are a little sketchy, but that's why we do it every day. And we do it, dozens of times a week. And so we do have the experience, and we do have the insurance, and we do have the guidance, the training. Let us be the ones that are getting up there, checking these things out. That's why you hire professionals for majority of stuff that you do in your life.
Absolutely. Leave it up to the professionals. If you are in need of a new roof repair, remodeling, or restoration, give Daniel a call at Cook DFW Roofing and Restoration. Their number is 833-COOK-DFW. Again, that's 833-COOK-DFW. The website, cookdfw.com. Be sure to ask them about their free first responder upgrade.
Hi, this is Joanne Jackson. My husband, Dallas Police Officer Brian Jackson, gave his life serving the city of Dallas in 2005. The RMS Treehouse Listeners Foundation supports the families of Dallas and Fort Worth area police officers and firefighters who have selflessly fallen in the line of duty. To donate, please visit offbeatcopshow.com or treehouseonair.com and click on the link.
And we're back to more Offbeat, the light side of law enforcement. Josh, how you doing over there with the timer?
Oh, I think I messed it all up. There we go.
Can't take you anywhere,
He had
man.
one job.
One
One
job.
job.
One job.
Well, actually, he
One
had
job.
two. Remember, he had to do the lights too.
He
I did remember that. All right.
Okay, well,
Here we go.
welcome back. Welcome back, Josh. Dust off the cobwebs.
Yeah.
Oh, again, welcome back to Offbeat. I'm your host, Steve Rutherford. Co-host for today's show, Josh Jackson.
Howdy.
Josh, the timer's only responsibility,
Yes,
Jackson.
Yeah, I sell homes a whole lot better. So,
And join us in studio, we've got retired Sergeant Mike Mata from the Dallas Police Department. Welcome, Mike.
Yeah, great to be here.
And we got my wife, Karen, joining us.
Yay.
All right, Karen, you're being quiet today.
Okay, y'all got to make me laugh. Come on.
Oh,
wow. Challenge
Wow.
accepted.
Never said I was funny. Okay.
Okay. Now, this segment of Offbeat sponsored by our good friends at Alexander Financial Management. If you have questions about retirement planning, investment strategies, life insurance, or estate planning, check out Alexander Financial Management at alexfm.com.
Well done, Steve.
Yeah.
Did you like that?
Yeah.
I handled that better than you did the timer, Josh.
You did. You did.
Throw that down there.
You did.
Now, Mike, you're former president for the Dallas Police Association, and in the first segment of the show, you mentioned kind of how you ended up becoming the president. It
Yep.
sounded like old Ron Pinkston needed some help on some TV interviews, and you just kind of migrated right on into the position there.
Well, yeah, and then we had our pension issue, and it was just at a point to where we lost just over 1,000 officers in 13 months, 14 months. We lost 1,000 officers
wow.
that instantly retired because there was a window that you could pull your money out of drop. They would allow you to pull it out, and so it was, and look, a lot of people are like, how could you possibly think that you could get a guaranteed return of 12 to 8%, no greater than 12, no less than 8, guaranteed, regardless of what the market pulled? How does that possibly sound, financially sound? But you got to remember, you're talking about a bunch of cops who don't understand, for the most part at that time, didn't understand
Sure.
finances and all that. They're just believing what they're told. They're told they have a top 5 pension, and so they believe that, and then all of a sudden it comes crashing down, and you're looking at, wait a minute, I just put 35 years in the department. I've been in drop for 15. I'm going to lose all that. So my option is to pull it now
Go to Fort Worth.
and take it, or if you were young,
This episode sponsored by Fort Worth.
take it out and put it into annuity,
Yeah.
and get a return on it, or ride it out. And so these officers had to make a decision. And so I didn't blame them for that.
Yeah.
They got to do what's right for them. And so the problem is that we had such a large number leaving, and one of those was our president, Ron Pinkston. And, some people blamed him, whatever, for not sticking it out. But, again, he's got to do what's right for him and his family. He just
yes.
put in 30 plus years. And so when he left, we kind of had a void there, and had a few people on the board and other things said, Mike, we would think you could do a great job doing this. And I was like, really? Me?
Sucker.
And so, and so I jumped into it, and, I like to tell folks, nobody gives you a handbook when you become the president
No.
of, roughly 3,500 officers. Nobody gives you a handbook and says, this is how you do it. You just go by the seat of your pants, and you hope you're making good, sound decisions. And that's why you need to have a good board. And I did have a very good executive board with me. But ultimately, I would tell people all the time, when I make a decision, I'm going to make the decision. I mean, I want everybody's input, but I'm going to make the decision, not because I want to be king, not because I want to be a dictator, but because when it goes south,
Yep.
there's only one
Yeah,
person
it's
that's
going on
going to
you.
have to answer it. It's going to be me. So, and I'm not going to get in front of a TV or a camera and say, well, I kind of wanted to do this, but my executive board and the board told me to do this, so I did it that. No, I owned it.
Yep.
So if I'm going to own it, then I got to believe in my decision that I'm going to make.
Wait, and the reason I had brought up how you became president, because actually I was the president for our Police Officers Association as well in Farmers Branch. And the way that came about, I'd been a member of our association forever. I was sitting in my office one day, and I had one of the board members for our POA come in the office. He said, hey, check out your email. And we had just had the previous president had retired, so it was a vacancy. I opened up my email, and there's a digital ballot. And
Oh, they did you dirty.
on the ballot, it says, please select your choice for president. Number 1, Steve Rutherford. Number 2, write in your selection here.
Wow.
So,
Oh man, that's dirty.
so
That's real
anyways,
dirty.
but I enjoyed it. Again, working for the guys, the stuff that we were able to accomplish, very, very rewarding.
Yeah.
Now, Josh, have you been a president of a police association?
No, I have not. No.
You know, in this,
So this feels like full circle moment for you because I
Yes!
was on here with some motor officers and we kind of made you feel inferior.
not in
And-
the club.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, inferior. And now I see. This is good. The setup. This is a good
Well,
setup.
and you know, to be honest with you, I think the most that I got out of being the president of the police association was fighting for those who didn't know how to fight the system or the problem.
Sure.
You know?
It's almost like you're not retired here, Mike, because you can tell the passion in your voice. You're very, very much
Still
very
in
much
transition.
engaged.
Yeah, I'm still in transition. I said, I helped the president that's now. I talked to him quite a bit and helped him through some things. And,
Well, and how long have you been retired now?
officially, I retired January 30th of 2024. So roughly a year.
I got him by about 3 weeks.
Yeah. I got you though, Steve.
Rookie.
Yeah, I tell you. But
Now-
But you know what? To me, that I think the important thing is that it still feels like family. Because you talk to some officers and they can't get out the door fast enough when they leave, whether they retire or just quit or something or fired. But I don't think that's the way it should be. I go back to Cop Hill and it still feels like I'm walking in a family.
well,
So-
and the difficult thing for me is, like I have not been back to the DPA for a meeting since I retired, and the reason is that I don't want in any way or form or any possible way to undercut the president that's there right now.
Yeah.
That's his role.
Understandable.
And so, like I haven't done a lot of events and stuff like that. Like I went to Cops Cop and a couple events, but other than, and even then I showed up, showed face, stayed for the awards, and then I was gone. And not because I'm trying to, disassociate myself. It's just that Jaime needs all the attention on him and his duties.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid that I'm going to take away from that. And I don't want to do that. He deserves to have his time, and he's doing an amazing job. And it's difficult, and I know it's difficult for him and for the board. So I don't want to be a hindrance to that.
That's respectful.
Now, Mike, let's get back to some of your stories. You mentioned that you had several opportunities there during your time in Dallas. What all opportunities and special assignments did you have at Dallas?
I was very fortunate. I was very fortunate that that I had a lot of great opportunities. I had a lot of people that opened those opportunities for me. Now, I will say this, and I tell officers this all the time, especially when I was still in the department. Don't ever take the easy way. Don't ever take the easy way. And y'all know what I talk about. I mean, we all have friends that are in places or whatever. And when you're interviewing for spots, you have association heads or leaders that say, hey, you join us or you work with me, I'll get you places, right? I'll get you that position. And you may think that is working for you, but that's working against you, because we all understand, everybody knows how people got where they're at. And you don't want to go into that unit carrying a jacket that you didn't earn it.
Well
that
said.
somebody pulled strings to get you there, because you're going to have to fight that for your whole career. And so I was very fortunate that I had people that showed me how to be a good cop and led me up to opportunities and didn't just open doors and just sit me down for an opportunity. And that's how I kind of touch on the motor jock issue there. But I was fortunate enough that as soon as I got out of the academy, obviously I did patrol for a little bit. And then I got pulled into a uniform drug task force, which all we did was chase drugs. That's it. All we did the whole time was chase drugs. And we put a lot of bad people in jail, took a lot of guns, a lot of drugs off the street. That was great. Then I promoted and started training. And then after that, I was very fortunate to go to the academy, and I taught there for 6 years. I was a defensive tactics instructor after I was a class advisor. So I did that for about 6.5 years, which I think was my best time. And then I was able to go after that to undercover major crimes. And undercover work's a different work. I'll tell you that. It's different.
Well, talking about undercover and talking about your drug squads, I'm sure you've got some stories going back to those.
Oh yeah,
those
so,
times.
So one involves my wife and one doesn't. So
Oh no.
Well, wait. Okay,
And I'll
Mike,
elaborate.
We just talked about drugs and undercover, and
I'll elaborate. So I was the first one was I was in major crimes, and we were buying some guns from this guy, right? And unlike TV, people think that these drug deals and these undercover deals all happen in these shady places or at strip clubs and all this stuff. No, we were in a parking lot outside of Hooters in downtown Dallas, right? We were in a parking lot, and it's not like TV. It's just about money for the most part. And I understand back in the 70s and 80s when you had the Jamaicans here, they used a lot of violence and to make their way because they were competing gangs that were going after each other. That's not how it is now. Now it's just about a deal. It's just about making money. Nobody wants to shoot anybody. And is it dangerous? Yeah, it's dangerous because you know exactly who you're dealing with. But there was a lot of phone calls way before the deal happened, right? So anyway, get to the story. So I'm with a buddy of mine, and we're working this deal, and we're waiting for the bad guys to show up, and we're sitting in the parking lot, and then all of a sudden I look to the right, and four of my neighbors, the mothers, and about 8 kids, they were all going to the Perot Museum, and they are literally walking right in front of our car, and the deal is about to go down right then and there. And I look and I recognize these 4 ladies, and I'm like, oh my God. So I hit the seat, and I fall all the way back, and my partner's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? I said, dude, I know those 4 women and all those kids. They're in my neighborhood. He was like, are you serious? I said, yeah, dude, you got to call this thing off. Got to call it off. So, I'm trying to call the guy to tell him, hey, man, I ain't going to make it. I'm running late, blah, 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 blah. He ain't answering. So, we see the car pull up. He gets out. He's looking for us. And I'm like, oh, my God. So, I tell my buddy, I can't get out. They're going to recognize me, because they seen me ugly in my neighborhood, with the beard and all that. So they're going to recognize me. It's not like they're not going to recognize me. And I said, they're going to want to talk. I said, this isn't going to work out well. And so anyway, long story short, my buddy gets out. He's able to do it, whatever. We pull some people in. It ends up okay. So about a week later, we had an event in the neighborhood, where everybody come together, whatever. And I had to tell these ladies, hey, y'all just strolled up in my dope deal, ladies. And they're like, what? And when I explained, they're like, you're kidding. I said, no, you were right in the middle of us buying guns.
Wow.
Really? I said, you were? Yeah, you were an episode of it. So, it's a big world we live in, but we all figured out it really isn't.
Yeah.
It really isn't.
But really in that situation, that it's better that the neighbors just happen to cross your gun buy situation and that your neighbors weren't there to buy the guns.
Good point. Very good point. Very good point. Yeah. Especially when they have 8 kids in tow.
Well, that's a good front,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you also said I'm drug squad stuff.
Yeah.
Wait, what kind of stories you got for me days back?
The drug squad, one of the best stories I had, and mostly because it came up in court. And so, I was the guy who was hiding in the bushes, looking through the fence, watching the guys do the deal.
There's
right?
always a guy hiding in the bushes.
Yeah. So, I'm in the bushes, and I said, okay, the car's pulling up. It's an Oldsmobile 4-door, blue in color. It's occupied 2 times. The passenger gets out. He did the deal. He got in. They're heading northbound, down, blah, blah. And then we'd have officers and squad cars to pull them over, and they'd arrest them, and they'd get the drugs. And so we were building a case to, reasonably believe that these people are involved in narcotics, right? So after we get 3 or 4 arrests done, and those people are en route to jail, and I figured out where they were hiding it, whether it was on their person or they had it stashed somewhere, I would say, okay, go, 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 go. And then the squad cars would come in and we'd arrest them, right? So, but it never always works out like you wrote it out on the napkin, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, because I'm working with radios, and, it was long before, Good Cell and all that. So I'm on the radio, and I'm like, okay, the guy, and at this time, this guy was like, man, he was like 6'6", 6'7", and he was 350 pounds. I mean, he was huge.
Wow.
Huge guy.
That's
He
big
was,
guy.
he was standing outside this bar, and I said, okay, and I described him, whatever, and I said, go, go, go. I know where the drugs is. So I take off, and I start jumping fences, because normally I get there after everybody else has got there, right? So I'm jumping fences. Well, I get there, and ain't nobody there.
Wow.
I run up on this guy, and like I said, he's 6'6", 6'7", almost 400 pounds, and he's looking at me. Well, he isn't running because the drugs aren't on him. He hit him in a gas tank in a car right there. So he's not running. Well, I'm standing there in full uniform. And so I just grab him, right? And he's like, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Well, I mean, I can't even handcuff him because he's so big that his arms won't reach behind him. So I take one set of cuffs and I take it and I handcuff it to a belt loop. And I take his other hand, I handcuff it to a belt loop. And nobody's coming. They're still not coming. And he's like, what's going on? What's going on? And then people are starting to crowd around. And so anyway, so I get back on the radio and I'm like, hey guys. And so they're finally starting to come, but it's taking them a bit. And the guy's like, what's going on? What's going on? And finally I said, you know what, man? You're wearing an orange shirt on a non-orange shirt day. That's illegal in the state of Texas. You're going to jail for that. He's like, what? And so I sit him down and squad cars get there, whatever. So it was funny at the time anyway. Then I go over to the car, open the thing. He knows now because I get the dope out of the gas cap area. Anyway, about a year later, we're in trial. And I got this attorney who we've bantered back and forth many times. So I'm up there and he says, Officer Mata, how far were you from where my client was? And I said, well, roughly about 200 yards, blah, blah, blah. You must have amazing eyesight. And I said, well, I got pretty good eyesight. I mean, you could see from 200 yards away, you could see that my client had drugs and he was doing this and that and this and that. I mean, that is just amazing. He just kept going on about how amazing eyesight I have, that, that I could see that and da-da-da-da-da. And I said, okay, yeah. And he says, well, since you have such amazing eyesight, if you could see 200 yards, could you see 300 yards? And I said, well, I mean, it all depends on the situation, And he said, well, exactly. Tell the jury exactly how far can you see, Officer Mata? I mean, since you have amazing eyesight, how far can you see? And I said, well, counselor, I can see the moon. And the last time I checked, that moon's pretty damn far away.
Nice.
And everybody bust out laughing. I mean, the
my
jury
gosh.
bust out laughing. And of course, it caught him off guard, and it caught me off guard. It just came out, and he was like, I object. And the judge was like, well, you asked.
Yeah.
You asked.
Yeah.
And everybody's laughing or whatever. And so we kind of get over that hump. So we come back the next day, and he tries to get me again. And he says, let me ask you on the actual arrest, did you tell my client that you arrested him for wearing an orange shirt on a non-orange shirt day? And I said, yeah, that kind of sounds like something I might have said that day or whatever. And, and this is where people need to understand that it's all about how you present it to the jury, because some people would say, okay, well, that's a smart ass thing to say. And that's what he was trying to get at, that I was dirty and making stuff up. And it was a lie. He tried to get me. In other words, you're saying you lied. And I just pivot to the jury and I said, folks, it was a situation that he's, 6'6". I'm 5'7" on a good day. He's 400 pounds. At that time, I'm a $170. I said, if it came to a hand-to-hand combat, there was no way I could fight him.
No.
So my options are very, very small there. I would probably have to shoot him. And we don't shoot to when we shoot to stop the threat, whatever that may have been. And I said, I was willing to do whatever I had to do, not to shoot him and not to have to result to that kind of. So did I lie to him? I did. I lied to him to safely get him in handcuffs.
You immediately jumped to the orange shirt in the playbook.
Yeah, it worked. And I said, I did what I had to do, and it worked.
Planning for the future is challenging, and getting where you want to go in life requires strategies built around your unique financial needs. Alexander Financial Management is here to help you reach your goals. As fiduciaries, Alexander Financial Management will pursue the best solutions for you, no exception. While their decades of experience and service are available to everyone, Alexander Financial especially wants to help first responders and their families. The founder is a former police officer, and the executive team includes a retired fire captain and a retired police officer. Their extensive background in public service gives a deep understanding of the public retirement systems of Texas. So for retirement planning, investment strategies, life insurance, and estate planning, Alexander Financial Management has your back, so you can look forward. Get more info at alexfm.com. That's alexfm.com. Investment advisory services offered through Transcend LLC, a registered investment advisor. TE3 and Alexander Financial are not affiliated entities. Insurance products and services are not offered through TE3, but are offered and sold through individually licensed and appointed agents.
He didn't do a job, did he, right?
I love you, Steve.
I tell you,
It's hard to find good help.
it is. And
You miss Joanne now?
oh, well, they had the same last name. I thought, I could.
Oh,
You would
no.
think, huh?
I thought they were interchangeable. But yeah, Josh.
Mike's a little bit higher, too. Love
Oh.
you, Joanne.
Welcome back, guys. Welcome back to Offbeat, the light side of law enforcement. We got one guest joining us in studio today. We've got retired Sergeant Mike Mata of the Dallas Police Department. Now, if you have not checked out the website, give it a look, guys. Offbeatcopshow.com. Again, that's offbeatcopshow.com. There on the website, you can listen to all episodes, as well as on the top, we've got a link to the RMS Treehouse Listeners Foundation. So click on that link, take a look at the foundation. Of course, the foundation's been around for many years, covered 10 counties in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And the foundation provides monetary assistance to the families of fallen police and firefighters here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So very, very important. I'd invite you to consider making a donation there to the foundation. Also, if you're an officer and you've got a funny story you would like to come on the show and share with our listeners, then send us an email, offbeatcopshow@gmail.com. Again, offbeatcopshow@gmail.com. Make sure you check us out on Facebook and Instagram. Give us a like, a share, a follow, all that good stuff. Now, Mike, let's get back over to you. You said you have a story here in... I'm not even quite sure how to segue into this. So, you know what? We're just going to let you have it. So take off.
Okay, well, everybody has embarrassing moments in their life and in their careers.
Absolutely.
And the worst thing you can possibly do, and I think everybody around this table would understand and agree, is for that to happen when you're a cop and when your buddies are around. Because they will never, ever let you live it down. Ever.
Good
Never.
friends.
Yeah, they will remember. It's for forever. It's sealed in everybody's memory. So, so this happened when I was still in the uniform drug unit, and we were running dope houses and all this. And so we had gotten information from narcotics that they were selling drugs out of this house, and they just couldn't hit it for whatever reason. They asked, if we wanted it, we could have it, whatever. And I'm like, yeah, we'll get it. So anyway, we're running on this house, and it looked like it was a duplex. And at some point, it probably was a duplex. So it had two doors, and then that faced one of the streets, and then it had a fence that went alongside the house, right, pretty close to those two doors. And then, what used to be a front yard turned into a parking lot. So they had a couple cars parked in there. We all know those houses. And so, anyway, we're going to make a run on this house, and we see what looks like, they're delivering drugs. One of those times you just happen to be at the right place at the right time. Boom, there it is. So sure enough, we pull up, they all take off running, and I'm chasing this guy. We're going by that fence, and he takes a big brown sack and he throws it over the fence. And I end up grabbing him and taking him to the ground, and we got everybody handcuffed, whatever. And I look, I go over to the fence, and I look over the fence, and the bag had opened up, and there's just $100 rocks, just pre-bagged, just everywhere. And I mean, it was a full bag. If I had maybe 200, 300 individual $100 bags.
Wow.
So there's a lot of drugs. And so, we're all excited. We're high-fiving. So, we've got like 5 people all handcuffed and on the ground. And so there's a dog in the backyard. And it's
Oh, no.
it's a South Dallas dog. So it's part, it looks like it's part chow and part Rottweiler. So it's a pissed off dog. It was just born to be pissed off, right?
Yeah.
And the dog is kind of tearing the bag, and I'm like, whoa, whatever. So at that time, I was kind of like the PR guy for the group. I would talk to people who were agitated. I was pretty good at de-escalating situations. So, all the other officers are getting people's names and all that stuff. So I go up to the door and I knock on the door, and we really didn't think that duplex was involved. Well, again, we didn't realize that it was a duplex at one time. They tore down the wall inside, and it was one home.
Nice.
So where we thought the drugs were being sold out, it was actually the whole house that they were doing it. So when I knocked on the door, it had a screen door that opened up right to left, and the inside door opened up left to right. So they were opposing doors.
Okay.
Right? And so again, I knock on the door, and the door opens, and it is a huge lady. I mean, she's 400 plus pounds, and she's wearing one of those muumuu dresses,
Yeah.
where it's just like a bed sheet with a hole, and it's, but it's big, and she's big, and she's taking the whole doorway kind of space. And I said, ma'am, I need you to get your dog. I need you to get your dog and bring it inside. And she's yelling, screaming. I said, ma'am, if you don't get the dog, we got to go over the fence to get this stuff. If the dog attacks us, we don't want to have to hurt the dog. So please, get the dog inside. So she slams the door, she grabs the dog, whatever. So then she comes outside in the backyard and starts screaming and yelling, whatever. And I said, ma'am, just come to the door again and I'll explain to you what we're doing here. Because what we didn't know is she's related to some of these guys. Again, we thought it was a separate, housing, a separate townhome, whatever, duplex. And so anyway, I go back to the door and I've taken off everything. And so, I'm just in uniform. And I knock on the doors open up. So I'm holding one screen door and knocking on the other one. Well, this time the door opens. Same lady, same muumuu, but now that dog comes underneath her dress. I mean, it like dragged the ground, so it was long. It comes underneath her dress and comes out of her dress and comes at me, right? And so my hands are kind of full because I'm holding the door and the screen door or whatever. So I fall back, and and behind me was a truck. Well, I hit that truck really loud, and a lot of the other officers thought I had been shot.
Oh no!
Right, and so the dog comes at me. Well, it's coming for my throat, and so I grab the dog by its neck, by its hair, with both its hands, and I'm pushing the dog down as I'm falling back. All right, you got to kind of get this in your head. So when I'm pushing the dog down as I fall back, it's right in between my legs.
Oh no!
We're all understanding where this goes. Yeah. That dog latches on.
Oh.
And man,
I think the neck was been better.
Man.
Yeah, bite me on the neck, please.
Just picture, I saw you have a German Shepherd. You throw that rope out there, you're just tearing it, right?
Oh.
That dog is losing it. And I'm punching the dog and punching it. I still have the scar right here. And I stuck my hand in its mouth. And so it's latched onto my hand, preventing it from closing anymore on that. And so I'm punching him, but instead of sticking my left hand in his mouth so I could get to my gun, I stuck my right hand in his mouth, and I can't reach my gun. So I fall to the ground. Again, everybody was over here doing this. They hear the bang. They see me fall. They think I was shot, right?
Yeah.
So they're yelling, shots fired, shots fired. And then finally they notice it was a dog. And then a buddy of mine, Scott McDonald, who's a huge SWAT guy now. At that time, he wasn't. His dad actually created SWAT at Dallas. All I hear is, Mike, turn your head. And what? Turn your head. So I turn my head, and I just hear two shots. Pow, pow. At a running go from about 30 feet away, he's running at me, puts off two shots, hits the dog in the nose and in the head.
Wow.
Boom, falls over. Right.
Good shot.
Amazing shot, right? And so I'm just like, oh my God. And when you could tell that when you can feel that you're bleeding,
Yeah.
And so they're all coming over to me because some of them still think I was shot because now they've heard the shots from Scott. They heard the car and all that. Some of you can't really see the dog at some point or whatever. So they start running over, and they're taking off all this, whatever. And I stick my hand down there and pull it out, and it's covered in blood. Now I really lose it. I'm like, oh my God.
It's come off.
Oh my God.
Wow.
So, and of course, when you got 5 or 6 guys out there and they're yelling shots fired or whatever, they call an ambulance and it's shots fired. So they're coming. And now everybody's coming. And this is South Dallas. So everybody's coming. And, anyway, so long story short, a good friend of ours, Christine Dreyer, and if she watches it, she's going to bust out laughing because she comes run over, and we were good friends. And she's like, oh my God, because she thinks I'm shot, right? And I've got blood on my hands and all this. And she runs over and she sees this dog, and this other guy who was in our squad, he's rolling the dog over, and he's a big jokester. And he's got a knife, and he pulls his knife out, And she was like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And he says, "Well, I got to get his pecker back," but he used the other word. She's like, "What?" He was like, "Well, the dog ate it." And she's like, "What?" He was like, "The dog ate. I got to get it back." She's like, "Oh my God!" She starts crying.
Hey, wait, what's going through your mind?
I'm laying here going, I can't believe, because there's, I'm laying on the ground. I just see legs and feet and everybody around. I'm like, this is the worst thing.
Am I being shot? Do I still have appendages attached?
Exactly.
To me?
Well, during this time, I kind of took a peek down there, so it was still there. But it,
Okay.
But anyway, but now I'm like, okay, this is probably the worst day of my life. This is going south, and so of course the DFR gets there, the ambulance gets there. I knew them because just like in Fort Worth, you go to the same firehouses, you know these guys.
Oh, yeah.
They're like, "Mata." I'm like, "Oh my God." They're like, "Are you kidding me?" And so anyway, they got me in the back of the ambulance, and the EMTs call the hospital to let them know what's coming.
Yeah.
Well, they had already been told that there was an officer shot en route. So that's what they're thinking. And so the fire guy is trying to explain to them without offending me. I said, "Man, just tell them. Just tell them." Because I'm on the gurney. I've got towels here. And I'm just like, this is really going to get embarrassing. And sure enough, we get into the hospital. They're wheeling me back there. I'm kind of half sitting up. All the nurses are looking. And I'm just like, this can't get any worse. This can't possibly get any worse. So I'm going to save you the ugly details. But it did get worse.
Okay.
But anyway, the chief wants to come see me. Who the chief at Southeast at the time was a female, and I'm like, no, I can't do this.
No, I'm good.
Can't do it. Mike, you can't tell the chief no. You gotta let the. So she comes in, and she's very stoic. I don't think I've ever seen her smile, and she's trying not to laugh. And I'm like, "Chief, great, just laugh. It's okay." Because if it was anybody else, I'd be laughing.
Yeah.
So then PES comes in, physical evidence. He's trying to convince me that we got to take pictures because we end up shooting the dog and killing the dog. And he's like, "Well, what if she sues? You're going to have something, Mike." And I'm like, "This is getting worse. This is the worst." Anyway, so just for months after that, I had dog toys, chew toys. I had you name it. It was in my box or in my locker or in my squad car. And it just, needless to say, I had 2 kids after, so everything's all good now. But it was brutal, man. It was a brutal 6 months.
That is the responsibility of your coworkers to make sure that those stories stay alive.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that's what we got for today's show. Mike, it's been a pleasure having you in studio today.
It's been fun.
Guys, until next time, stay safe and watch each other 6.